Hi, I'm Shailyn and I sew. It is Filipino Friday and October, so I figured I would do a costume that has a Filipino flair to it. Since I'm from the Philippines, I thought, paano kung si Moana ay taga Pilipinas? I originally thought about doing something using some of the common clothing styles like the kimono or the tapis or even the malong. But I then decided to change it and do something a little bit more like her costume. So since part of my family is from the Ilocos region, I ordered this textile, these two textiles actually, known as Inabel from Anthill Fabric Gallery, and I can link that below. These were woven in Vigan, which is where my grandfather was born, so I found it fitting. The weave seen here is called pinilian, which is similar to brocade fabrics. The designs are woven on the weft, which is going horizontal, and float on top. So on the back you'll see sort of like an inverted version of the design. And you can see it on this one a little bit better. So since this one looks more similar to Moana's top, that's what I'll be using. The design looks like a double star and a diamond design, and I thought that was pretty fitting for a seafaring character. And then this one is what I'll be using for the sash. The design is guava fruit and then the leaves around it. I'm hoping to be able to use that and highlight the design in the sash. For the skirt, I'm hoping to pay homage to the weaving community by weaving the skirt myself. I want to use banana leaves since I have some in my backyard, and since some of the textiles are made of banana fibers in the Philippines, like abaca. And I've decided to omit the grass skirt underneath since I haven't seen any reference to those types of skirts in the Philippines. So let's begin. I started with the skirt first since I figured the weaving would take the longest. Bananas only fruit once and can be knocked down, so I'm just taking the stalk and separating the layers. Normally the fibers are stripped down to the tiny little bits of like thread so it could be finely woven, but I thought I could weave it with 1/2 inch strands. Yeah, so I didn't like how stiff it was, so I'm just gonna put the skirt aside and figure it out for later. For the top, I decided to use the L'Amour pattern for just the bodice. I've used this quite a few times, even for my wedding dress, so I figured Trusty Dusty here will be good for this. I'm going to see if I can get away with adding some space to the side back piece and adding elastic. And then I'm going to take away the pleat and squaring the neckline as well. Alright, so this is what it looks like. I had to remove that pleat in the center, so I really thought that there would be a lot of gaping. There really isn't that much gaping. It's actually quite comfortable. Now, what I didn't think or anticipate was like in the back here, it's a little bit looser than I expected. I did add 3 inches total, like I said, and then I thought that elastic would help. But as you can see, it's pretty loose. Right there. It doesn't bounce back as much as I thought it should. So I'm like really confused about that because my measurements are a little bit bigger than that the last time I've made this pattern. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this main piece the same where it's straight across the center, but I'm going to go back to the original where I didn't mess with the back piece at all, and keep it that way, and hopefully that'll be perfectly fine. I'm wondering if, because I took this pleat off, it gave just enough space that I needed to fit properly. Always press your seams. Oh, the zipper pull is so big. Oh my gosh. What am I gonna do? Oh man. Okay. Well, I don't know. Moana's hair is gonna cover it. Doesn't matter. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh well. That realization when you match everything up and you realize no one's gonna see it anyway. Once I made the bodice from the main fabric, I went on to the lining. Now with the lining, I also added bias tape on the seams, and then there's a section in the pattern where it goes on the side front, diagonally across. So I added that as well, and then instead of using spiral steel boning, which I've used for the last few projects, I am actually just using zip ties. So this is where I am. I ordered 160 cowrie shells, and I have used 60, and I assumed I would be able to use 80 cowrie shells for one row, and I need 2 rows of this. So I counted 20 on this side and 20 ends here, which means I will be this many short of cowrie shells, which is like, what, 5? Wow. I'm just gonna keep going. I ordered an emergency batch just in case, but yeah, we'll see how far I'll get. So I finished it actually, and had to do some moving around at the edge here, and it kind of ends with 1 on each side, kind of. I think it looks fine. I was talking earlier about how this zipper pull is really big, and then I mentioned earlier that I'm going to be wearing a wig, and Moana has really long hair anyway, so the zipper pull and this isn't going to be seen in any pictures or me walking around or anything, so I think this is fine. I probably could have gotten away with stopping right here, or like here, because I'm thinking the hair would get caught in the shells, but there's the bodice. So this is an anting-anting used for protection and good luck. Anting-anting is like an amulet. I felt like it was really fitting for a seafarer in particular because obviously Moana's story, she needed to go out into the sea and she would need some protection and good luck. I also have these carabao teeth. The carabao or water buffalo is the national animal of the Philippines, so I really wanted to tie that in. Plus, it's one of my favorite animals. I tried a few different ways to make the necklace before my friend and I finally agreed that crocheting it all together would look the nicest. So since the banana fibers didn't really work out for me, I figured the next best thing is to just weave regular fabric and kind of give the illusion of that woven textile. So I chose this muslin piece color and then this color and this one, which is a little bit lighter, and I am going to weave all three of these colors in sort of random orders to make it look a little bit more natural. So I had my husband 3D print me some weaving tools. This was his test run. This is obviously a little too small. And then we ended up with this last piece, which this big hole at the top, these two right here, they are a 1/2 inch wide. So I'm going to be putting the strips that I'm cutting out into here, and then I'm weaving it into this main portion once I cut strips out of this as well. So after restarting this about 5 times and actually referencing one of my old YouTube videos from a couple months ago on how to do this triaxial weave, I am finally halfway done through this short skirt, and then I still have to go ahead and do the longer part of Moana's skirt. I've left these ends here long because the bottom of her skirt has like triangles that come down and like create like a, you know, like a nice little edge at the bottom. It took me 3 days to do this. Not 3 whole days, but you know. So this is the first half, or the top half of the skirt. So this is what my skirt looks like now. I put the woven piece that I've already done on top of the bottom piece that I haven't woven yet. And now that I'm looking at it, there's a couple things that I'm thinking about doing. What I'm thinking is, this bottom piece here is 8 inches. So I'm thinking of weaving the bottom 10 inches. That way, if this does move up, you can see a little bit of weaving. If I leave this intact underneath the top layer, it could serve as like a lining almost for the top part of the skirt. And what I could do is I could probably stitch this down on the lining essentially on this piece and keep it from going everywhere. This one seems to be coming along much faster than the first one. Obviously I have now remembered how to do this. For future reference, if you want to do this triaxial weave, use a ruler like this, and the weave should go 60 degrees on both sides. So it should match up when you do it. Let me move this over here. So 60 degrees when you match it up. So what I've done is I started weaving it like this on one direction, and then every time I finished a certain amount that was enough to weave the second portion this way, I would stitch it down. So I would stitch it at the top right here, and then every time that came down, I would stitch it down the side. And then I would keep going until obviously this whole side right here is done, and I've stitched all of that down with a running stitch. Now what I'm doing the same thing. So this portion right here at the top has both sides crisscrossing, so I've already done a running stitch right there to hold it down, and then I'm holding it a little bit taut at the bottom, and then once it lines up at the bottom, I do another running stitch down there. That way, unlike the first portion that I did, it got pretty loose rather quickly. This one will hold on, or will have like a tighter weave, and that's just what I learned from doing the first one. So here is the sash fabric, and the last thing that I need to do, what I plan on doing is I plan on using 3 rows. This fabric is only 22 inches wide, so I'm going to use 3 rows so I can stitch them together. So once I cut all of this out, I'm just gonna sew the 3 pieces together, and that really should be it. Dati pa ko na humaling sa dagat, di ko na maalala at di maintindihan. Kahit anong pilit makabawi, di ko nang maiwasan, tumakbo pabalik sa dagat. Well, I hope you all enjoyed my video. If you have any comments of what I should do next on the next Filipino Friday, please let me know down in the comments below. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe to my channel.